One of the projects that we're truly sad won't include Depp anymore after that infamous trial has to be the Pirates of the Caribbean saga. But apparently, a spin-off film was being made with Margot Robbie leading it this time that just got cancelled. The producer for this film thinks that the film could pop up later. Should we expect spin-offs till then? Let's dive deeper into it. Starting with one of Disney's biggest successes. Without a doubt, the Pirates films have been one of the biggest hits from the studio till this day. Despite many doubts about the films, every single time they came out with a new sequel. Most of the credit for that can be given to just how perfectly Johnny Depp was able to interpret the character and brought around a huge success at the box office with a total of over $4 billion worldwide. The producer confirmed that 2 more films from the franchise were currently being worked on, though that was quite a while ago. He didn't tell us who would be starring in one of the films, but he did tell us that the other film would be led by none other than Margot Robbie, the very same actress that made her name with an incredible performance in the film featuring Leonardo DiCaprio, The Wolf of Wall Street. Ever since then, though, the star has blown up in Hollywood, though he did also hint at the possibility of Johnny Depp coming back for one of the films, while at the same time being just as unsure about it. Sadly though, as recent news has spread, Disney has cancelled the Margot Robbie-led Pirates film. Why exactly did they do this though? Moreover, Robbie talks about it. The entry into the series with the actress would have been its 6th part. So why did they cancel it? Did they realize they needed Johnny Depp to come back so the films would be a success, or have they just given up on it? The actress had a few words to say about the issue, and she started by saying that this time the film would have had a larger focus on a group of mostly female characters. At the start, they had an idea of what they wanted to do with the film and the expected results, and by late 2020, they had started working on it for a while. At the time, Jerry Bruckheimer was going to be directing the film, but later on, we found out that it was going to be directed by the person behind Chernobyl, Craig Mazin. Not just that, but it was supposed to be written by Christina Hodson from the fan-loved Bird of Prey film. They never wanted to make a spin-off for the franchise, but instead were trying to make a completely new story with new characters from scratch just from the same universe. Despite everyone's efforts, a 6th installment in the franchise ended up getting cancelled. But the producer also thinks the film might pop back in the future. It seems not to be the direction the studio wants, but we should also remember that such films don't usually just pop back up and it could be the last we hear from it. Next up, the 6th installment almost happened. While we're talking about the 6th film not happening, we can't just ignore that it almost did happen and would have been one of the most refreshing takes on the franchise we've seen in quite some time. The producers tried to bring a fresh twist to the already super profitable franchise, but it doesn't always play out like we think it would. Maybe Disney just feared how all-women reboots of massively loved franchises were doing and backed out before they could make the same mistakes. They may want to give a female pirate her story instead of making her a copy of the original. Whatever the case, it certainly is bad news for eager fans out there who wanted more Pirates content to watch after a long time. Despite the team putting in so much effort, we just aren't going to see another Pirates film anytime soon. It doesn't seem like we're going to see the pirate called Red in a film of her own since Disney cancelled it, and we don't even know if the actress would be willing to come back to it again. However, the story of an enslaved person making her way to turning into a full-on pirate would have been incredible. But fear not, only one of 2 films has been cancelled, so there might be some hope for fans, even if they will have to wait a bit. Lastly, will there be a new Pirates movie? Until Disney puts some official news out there about an upcoming Pirates film, we can only speculate what it's going to be about since we know that they aren't going to give up on one of their most profitable franchises. A future entry could go in many different directions, but one of those is the one that makes the most sense, especially if we follow the scene in which Salazar's revenge is shown in the post-credits. While we can't expect Depp to come back as Jack Sparrow anytime soon, since the recent fiasco he was involved in, we're probably seeing the son of Will and Elizabeth Turner, Henry Turner, take matters into his own hands. In the post-credits scene, we saw both Turners asleep as Davy Jones was busy stalking them. It's been almost 20 years since they put out the first film in the franchise, leading to massive success. But admittedly, most films after that have mostly just gotten mixed reviews and didn't do as great, as they all have Depp in them. We know that the studio had 2 films for the franchise in mind. One of them just got cancelled, and we can't expect it to come back to the mix anytime soon. But the other film was supposed to carry on the narrative from the original films, and this might just be the plot of it. This is the most sensible way that the franchise should go, but all we can do is wait and see what the studio thinks of it. Jerry Bruckheimer on Pirates of the Caribbean reboot, the script will come forward at some point. Coming up, the script is coming forward later on. While the film might have been cancelled for now, it doesn't mean it can't happen. For all we know, the studio could think that it's a better idea than what they have in mind in the future and go for it, as did the franchise's producer, Jerry Bruckheimer, confirmed in a recent interview that he had with Collider. The producer talked about how the script will come up later, and when they could go all in on the project, at least he thinks so. Yes, it could still happen, even though the Oscar-nominated actress said it wouldn't happen since Disney didn't want to go ahead with the female-led spin-off they had been working on for the past few years. It turns out that the studio wants to prioritize a main series film over the spin-off project that starred the actress, but it certainly does not mean that the film couldn't happen later in the future. This makes sense if we're being honest. After 2 whole decades have passed by ever since the first film and the previous 2 not doing that well, they'd surely want to establish that they're still in the game and have got what it takes before adding a spin-off to the lineup that the franchise has to offer. Next up, a different story. But it is a loss that the team worked so hard on a film only to be shut down at the very end, along with fans eagerly waiting for more Pirates content. Recently, the actress was in an interview with Vanity Fair, where she talked about the film with a publication, saying that the idea itself was super cool. However, sometimes studios still don't go ahead with it, even if it's something cool. This time, they weren't going to carry the same story, but with a cast that consisted mainly of female characters. Still, they had an extremely different story that would make them stand out. And the story itself wasn't just original, but nothing like what we've seen in the franchise before. We're glad that the film isn't completely scrapped, and there's still a chance that we're going to get to see it get made sometime in the future. But it turns out there's still some interest in the main series itself, so the studio wants to make more films on it, see how that goes, and then consider a spin-off. But are they just milking the main series at this point, or do they even have a good story to tell? It could be either, but as long as the film is better than their last entry, does it matter? Finally, a 6th installment needs to happen before any reboots. In a world where spin-offs are being made out of everything just for the sake of them, and actual meaningful films seem to matter less and less, at least to big studios, should we be complaining that a spin-off got cancelled? While the film's producer didn't confirm or deny if Depp was coming back for the 6th film, we did get confirmation that the reason for the spin-off getting cancelled is that people were simply more interested in the main series and didn't care about the character at the moment. So coming out of a long hiatus to a spin-off would not have been ideal. The series hasn't put out any new films for almost an entire decade at this point, while all other entries in the franchise were mainly centered around our beloved captain. So it kind of didn't make sense to randomly pop up one day with a different character. Though this really isn't an ideal situation for fans of the franchise. Replacing Jack Sparrow will need a lot of work, so a 6th installment that explains the entire situation would be a much better route. This approach deserves to be commended, since if they ignored the issue, then none of their future films would sell, ending up in a huge flop over a simple issue. But when is the new film going to come? Fans will have to wait a while before the franchise is back on the big screen. But it's better than a semi-cooked entry just for the sake of it. That's a wrap for this video. What are your thoughts about the film? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.